Hey folks, welcome to Fifth Down Father, where football meets fatherhood, and sometimes a little chaos. I'm John Malone, proud dad of 5, college football fanatic, and your host. This show is all about those extra downs in parenting and in life, when you need another shot to get it right. That's me anyway, most mornings. So let's get into it. A little bit about my story. Recently, I left my job. Been there 9.5 years. I appreciate what they did for me. I showed up to work every day, working 6 a.m., sometimes 5:30, sometimes as early as 3 a.m., getting off at 3, 4 in the afternoon, hot factory, doing everything I could to make ends meet at home. My wife, former member of the U.S. Navy, she's a auto tech, tire changes, oil changes, the real dirty work. She's great at it. I couldn't do it anymore. I needed a do-over, a second chance. And surprisingly, I don't know why I was shocked, but I was. My wife said, go for it. She said, do it. It's like, well, we got 5 kids. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 boys, 1 girl. Sorry, she'd be mad at me for saying it wrong. 4 boys, 1 princess. Occasionally, they'll make an appearance, do a little Q&A with the kiddos. Maybe even be able to convince my wife to come on and talk about parenting. But we're going to cover everything from college football to being a dad. Might even hit up some local sports. We just, as a family, we just needed to try something new. I have a good marriage. I have awesome kids. Don't get me wrong. There is a lot of chaos. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't give them back. I wouldn't trade them. And I would do anything in this world to protect them. You may also see on occasion one of my 2 dogs make an appearance. You may see one of my 2 cats make an appearance. They may all just show up out of nowhere. I'm not going to lock them away. I'm not going to hide them. I'm not going to ask them to be quiet. This is what we want as a society now. We want something real, not something scripted, not something written by AI. We just want to have a real conversation. So I'm going to talk about the things that I know and love best. It's college football. It's my kids. It's my wife. Now, clearly, I'm not a professional. I did have a small script for my opening lines right below the camera. I'm unapologetic for that. I sat here for 10 minutes trying to memorize it. I've been memorizing it for days. The second I turned on that camera, nothing I could do about it. I do have my laptop set up over here. That way I can go through my notes as we go. And hopefully that keeps it more real because I'm open, I'm honest. And let's really dig in now. So, we're going to start off with some college football. We're going to go over what I view as the 3 biggest matchups this weekend. First, we have LSU versus Florida. LSU coming off the Louisiana Tech win and the real big win the week before against Clemson. What about the LSU defense? This is by far the best defense that I've seen LSU have, probably going all the way back to like 2017. Our linebackers, Whit Weeks, let's just say all the Weeks brothers, Harold Perkins, whatever this defensive coordinator is doing, he's doing it right. Garrett Nussmeier, patient in the pocket. He's not putting up huge numbers so far. I would expect to see a little more against Louisiana Tech, but it is week 2. He did have the pick early in the game, but overall, he's doing his thing. He's overall protecting the football, making the right reads, being patient in the pocket, rolling out when he needs to. I'm real proud of where he's come. He's sat 2-3 years waiting his turn. He's watched a couple Heisman Trophy winners. I mean, who would have thought that LSU was going to have Heisman Trophy winners at quarterback? Joe Burrow shocked us. He gave us probably the greatest single season in college football history. Jaden Daniels, I didn't see that coming, but great work. And then we got Florida coming off a loss to USF. You know, I was watching another podcast just a couple days ago, and they were talking about how USF, you know, they have the best resume in college football right now. Granted, we're 2 weeks in. They have the win over Boise State. They have the win over Florida. And now Billy Napier looks like he's on the hot seat. Me personally, I think Billy Napier is a good coach. Is he a great coach? I don't know. He seems to be struggling. This becomes a year in, year out thing. Maybe it's a bad draw of the cards. Maybe USF really is a top 10 team. I'm not going to sit here and predict that. That would be a crazy hot take. But sometimes the cards just don't fall your way. Now, this is the SEC opener for both teams. Back when it was East versus West, this was the big cross-division rivalry for both schools. Play every year. There's been years where Hurricanes have, knocked it out of being played in Florida or being played in Louisiana, and Florida got a couple of home games in a row. The Tigers then turned around and got a couple home games in a row. You know, it's been a wild rivalry, and I'll be real interested to see if Lagway can be who he was last season there at the end, where he looked like he may be the quarterback of the future. If Nussmeier can put up big numbers, or if he's just going to stay Mr. Consistent, or will it all fall apart? But we will see. Okay, let's go with the prediction. We got Florida at LSU, 7:30 kickoff at night in Death Valley. Florida looks down. LSU's defense looks real tough. Let's go. LSU takes it 30-3. Second game. Got those Tennessee Vols and the Georgia Bulldogs. Another big rivalry. This might as well be rivalry weekend for the SEC. This is huge. Georgia's run defense, grade them a solid A. Like, you're not moving the ball on them on the ground, at least not so far. Tennessee, everyone was like, losing Nico, former number one prospect, basically trading off quarterbacks. Aguilar had transferred to UCLA. Nico makes the transfer too. Aguilar comes back to Tennessee. Now, I'm not putting too much stock in what that offense did against ETSU. However, it would be really hard not to sit here and say it looked impressive. I do think after the Syracuse game, Tennessee's defense probably leaves a little bit to be desired, but we're going to find out this week. For both schools, this is a trendsetter. Are you who you think you are? Are you who your fans think you are? Or is it all going to fall apart? And there's really only one way to find out. All right, for this prediction, we're going into Neyland Stadium. Bulldogs taking on the Vols. Georgia defense looks tough. Tennessee offense looks like they might have something going. But I think Georgia's talent just overcomes Tennessee. Final score 42-35. Georgia wins it. Last but not least, we have Texas A&M at Notre Dame. Number 16 versus number 8. Notre Dame's still in the top 10 after dropping their first game. Texas A&M beat Utah State last week. These games could be redemption arcs. Texas A&M has really struggled against ranked opponents, especially top 10 opponents in the last couple of years. Notre Dame feels a little let down. They made the deep playoff run last year and came up just a little short. But they're both hungry. They're both looking for that win. This is another must win for both schools. This will kind of set them up for the rest of the season. If Notre Dame loses this without having to be a part of a major conference, odds are their playoff chances are slim to none. Texas A&M, they drop this one. It hurts. They could still recover. They could still come into the playoff picture later in the season. But right now, it'd be a tough one for them to do. All right, last prediction. A&M traveling to Notre Dame at night, 7:30 kickoff. A&M recently has struggled with these big games. Notre Dame had a tough loss. Let me take Notre Dame 35-21 to take down A&M. All right, so let's move on from college football. Let's talk about family. Let's talk about kids. The dad tip of the week, we're going to go with patience like Nussmeier. He was patient. He waited his turn to get the starting job. He could have made the leap to the NFL last year. You know, he had a decent season. Not fantastic. Probably a little short of people's expectations. A little short of my expectations. However, he still probably would have been first, second round pick. I wouldn't put him in the top 5, top 10. But he was a solid quarterback. He has a lot of the intangibles. Son of a coach, you know. And what I'm getting at is we all have those kids, or a lot of us have kids. They're quiet. They're not sure what they're doing with their life yet, and that's okay. They're kids. But we also have those kids that, you know, it seems to be a thing now that all kids, or most kids, or a lot of kids, are ADHD. 2 of my 5 have been diagnosed with ADHD. I'll be honest, I wasn't a real big believer in this whole ADHD thing till I got the chance to witness it myself. To kind of give you a little bit of insight, I have a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 4 or 5-month-old. My wife's going to kill me for not knowing exactly off the top of my head. But this is my first episode here, and I'm still a little nervous. I'm sure you can tell I'm spending a lot of time looking over here, looking back at you. But let's get back to it. Those ADHD kids, love them to death. Oliver and Oren, you too. You never leave me with a silent moment, a calm moment. But I love everything about the chaos. And sometimes you test my patience. But we got to find that patience like Nussmeier. You know, it can't always be yelling and screaming or timeouts or taking things away. Sometimes we have to sit patiently and let them figure it out. Offer them encouragement, support, you know, words of wisdom. And it gets hard. The more kids you have, the harder it gets to find patience because it feels like you never have a moment to yourself because you don't. But that's okay. The kids are our future. They're what we're going to leave behind someday. And how we react to their situations now is going to help define them later on. It's going to define them as parents, as people, as citizens. And patience is a virtue. It truly is. Let's see what else. So as I move in to wrap up this first episode, I'll leave you with this. As a parent, you have to find time for yourself. And it's hard. Like I said, the more kids you have, the harder it is to find time for yourself. Not just for yourself, but for your spouse. And for me, I play APA pool on Thursday nights. Am I great? No. Do I have nights that I feel great on the pool table? Absolutely. But it's that getting away, whether it's for an hour or 3 hours, however long it takes to get to my match and get to play and win or lose, like I got that break. My wife recently started playing APA pool. She's completely new to pool, but she's taken a chance. She's taken a leap. You know, she goes out on Monday nights. I stay home with the kids, and she gets to do adult things with other adults as opposed to always being a parent. And that's important. It's important that you make time for yourself. Earlier this week, I believe Monday, me and my wife, we got to have lunch together with no kids for the first time in months. It was nice. We had sandwiches, she had soup. Like, we just talked a little bit about kids, but mostly we just talked about life in general, things that we'd seen lately on TV, things that we've enjoyed lately. You know, we're planning a big move here shortly from Tennessee to Florida and be closer to some of my family and some of hers. And it's something we're really looking forward to. And we just got to enjoy time with each other. So let me leave you with that. Find time for yourself, find time for your spouse, and just do things that make you happy. It's okay for your life most of the time to revolve around your children, but you have to find time for you.